Hey team, Richard Greer here, along with Jess for another CP Media Team podcast. How are you getting on tonight, Jess?
I'm good, thanks, Richard. How are you getting on?
Yeah, really good, thanks. Hey, tonight's show is proudly brought to us by Salomon and Team CP, your endurance coaching specialists. And I just wanted right at the top of the show want to mention that this is an interactive show, and we've got comments that you type into the social media channels and will come through directly to us. So we've got a fantastic show on the cards tonight. So if there's something that kind of you want us to ask, just fire your comments in, and we'll be able to pick those up as we go. And because Solomon's on board, we've got a Salomon prize pack to give away if you do make a bit of a comment. So really encourage you to do so. And on that note, last week's show was brought to you by True Fleece, and we're giving away a True Fleece beanie as part of that from our podcast that we did with Dan Jones, and Kelly Stone from the Mighty Waikato will be receiving one of those. So thanks for being part of the show and putting your comments in there, Kelly. Jess, how are you getting on this evening?
I'm good, thank you. Good, going well down here in Monaco. I've had a big week just getting out on my feet, just hitting the trails, getting some good running in, and been in the pool as well, so doing some swimming.
Good stuff. That's awesome. And how's the body feeling at the moment?
It's feeling good. It's feeling good. I'm keeping up with my mobility, lots of yoga, which is lovely. So feeling quite nimble at the moment. So the body's feeling good. Yeah.
Good job.
How about you?
Yeah, not too bad actually. Yep, just cruising along. We had managed to get some vertical meters for May done. Managed to beat Grant Boyd, who was sort of wasn't leading out to be my sort of arch nemesis. I was trying to compete until he told me that it was the other way around. He wanted to try and beat me. Then he got COVID. He had a week off, and I managed to just slip past him to beat him by about 1,000 meters. So
nice.
Maybe it's probably not as sporting as it should be, but I'll take it.
Great work.
So, that's awesome. So, hey, thanks to everybody who got involved in our challenge for May. It seems to be getting bigger and bigger every year. So it's absolutely fantastic. And a great way to sort of get some good fitness and strength gains and sort of be involved and have a bit of a challenge, especially as the month gets a bit darker as we go as well. We've seen some epic adventures. And we're going to have a chat later on to the show with Darren Groot, who completed 3 Everests over the month of May, all on foot, which was pretty impressive. So I'm looking forward to catching up with Darren. We're also getting into the cooler months now, and training doesn't have to be a bore. We don't have to sort of put it on hold. We've got all sorts of things going on from our Zwift sessions. We've got 3 of those happening a week. We've got some group sessions that are still going on, and obviously our Team CP community. So tap into that social media Facebook page and sort of try and get a bit of inspiration of what other people are up to there as well.
Absolutely. Cool. And so who have we got on the show tonight?
Yeah, that's right. So we have got a big show tonight. As when I was planning this, is like Everest challenge, right? Yes. Who's the first person that comes to mind for that? And Mark Inglis, who lives in Hamner, was the person that come to mind, and pretty awesome. We managed to get him on the show tonight. So we're going to have a chat to Mark. Obviously, he's got an amazing story. He's the first double amputee to reach the summit of Mount Everest. So actually Mount Everest himself. So that's pretty amazing. And then we're also going to talk to Caden Shields, who's a Christchurch-based physiotherapist and a really fast marathon runner, about stretching and mobility. And in regards to, do we actually need to do stretching? How do we do that? Why is it important, etc.? So sometimes a bit of a contentious topic. So we're going to hopefully decrease and expel a few of those myths that come out around that stretching side of things.
Great. Amazing.
Good job.
Cool.
Shall we bring Mark into the show, Jess?
I think so.
Good job. Mark, thanks for joining us. How are you getting on tonight?
Oh, doing great actually. It's slightly shattered. Been on the end of a gravel mover all day, so it's a graveling season on the trails. I look after a lot of the mountain bike trails here in Hamner, and it's perfect weather to lay a bit of gravel. But that means about 40,000 steps a day on the back of a gravel mover. So it's the 62-year-old body's feeling a bit puffed.
That's a big job. I'm pleased you're sitting down to talk to us tonight. Is that a yearly thing? And is it just the sort of local tracks up in the back of sort of Conical Hill and Hamner? Is that where you're doing most of that?
Well, actually, I'm the trail manager for the St. James Cycle Trail. So there's a lot of work up in there, although we've lost the bridge in the middle. So we've got a bit of a broken trail up there at the moment. Here in Hamner, we've got, about 72 kilometres of trail just in the Hamner Basin. And sort of I help out with the track network group here for that. Then I look after all the other trails in the rest of the Huranui in North Canterbury. And so it's pretty busy. So you have to keep the gravel up on a lot of the trails, especially the new ones in the open areas that have been logged. Otherwise, they just can't cope. And we've got Queen's birthday coming up. So I've got 100 meters more to do tomorrow morning, and then I can park it up for until spring, I hope. So, yeah, good almost job. There. Yeah.
Nice work. I was going to sort of finish the show with this in terms of the Hamner in the track development and things that are going on up there. There's been a few new trails up in the back of Hamner. It's a yearly sort of holiday spot for the family. And is there more development plan? What's in the pipeline for Hamner? Because it's just such a great spot.
Oh, I mean, it's you'll be able to do several hundred kilometers of trails in the next decade. And so we've got a long-term strategic plan, both the mountain bike club, but also the track network group and Huranui Trails. And they all sort of dovetail together. It's about connecting the St. James to Hamner. That's a big project. There's a big project for right around Mount Isabel at around about the 900 meter level. The Hamner Trails have been designed to be like concentric rings from the easiest, intermediate, advanced, and then expert and extreme. And we really need to grow that middle area. And there's a real focus on that. But with every lot of trail, it takes passion, but it also takes a lot of money.
100%. I did in my research around this podcast tonight. I was told that you were the lord of the Huranui bike tracks. Would that be fair?
No, that's definitely not fair. But it's been a bit of a passion, and I have to say it's a lot of my involvement came along just at the right time with at the beginning of COVID. So I'm stuck in the country, and I'll tell you what, mate, I'm not very good at sitting still. I'm not very good at staying at home. So if I can escape out and build a trail, then that's almost as good as jumping on a plane and heading to Nepal or to Cambodia or India.
Yeah, brilliant. Good job. Let's take a big step back all the way to the start. So we've got audience all over the world. Obviously, as a Kiwi, I'd say 99.9% of Kiwis will know about you and your story. But could you just sort of give us a bit of a recap around, I guess, your mountaineering background and that amazing story of how a 23-year-old got stuck up the top of Mount Cook for 13 days or so?
Sure. It's I always say I'm a 62-year-old attention deficit kid, and that's pretty much what I was as a kid as well. But I grew up in rural New Zealand, and the only game, of course, was rugby. And I thought it was thugby because I was the skinniest little piece of whitebait you've ever seen, and I had the best thing known to man, and that was a mentor. One of my teachers, Bert, he was a mountaineer, so I started climbing when I was about 12. By the time I was 18, 19, I was able to turn that into a job, with the search and rescue team at Mount Cook. We were some of New Zealand's first professional athletes back in the late 70s and early 80s. And it was while I was working there, I was co-leader of search and rescue along with Don Bogey, and went out for a wee training climb with Phil Dool. He was a new team member. We did the East Ridge of Cook, stuck our nose over the top and realised that the weather report was about 12 hours out. And so we had to get out of the wind and up near the top of Cook, about 50 metres below the summit, there's a crevasse. It's always there. We crawled into it. We thought, sweet, no worries, wait 30 minutes, the weather will change. And, it did. It got worse. And so that starts the start of the longest spell of bad weather in recorded history at Mount Cook at the time. And it was the start of 13 and a half days, 324 hours of stuck in an ice cave. The thing that allowed us to survive is the reason why people were on the podcast, why people with Team CP, and it's knowledge. It's knowledge that allowed Phil and I to survive. It's the knowledge that frostbite doesn't kill you, but hypothermia does. And so it's all about decision making, lying absolutely dead still for 13 and a half days. Because if you move around, you've got no food. You're burning actually the same number of calories up there without a sleeping bag than you are probably doing a stage in the Tour de France.
Right,
half
right,
iron.
right.
You're burning 6,000 calories a day. I went from 71 kilos to 39, just lying
constant
absolutely
shivering.
still. No, I only shivered about twice. It was
Right.
we had just basic layers of clothes, but just lying absolutely dead still, retaining your body heat, and it's all about survival, really. On the 29th of November 1982, the weather cleared just for a few hours, and we were able to be lifted off the summit. We went away to hospital, and we thought we'd lose a few toes, but it was obviously going to be a lot worse than we were in hospital. And until on Christmas Eve, actually, it was 9 o'clock in the morning, and Ward 7 Burwood Hospital, and the surgeons came in and put two lines 140 millimeters below the knee, and wheeled us into theatre. And as I was being wheeled into that theatre, I thought I had it completely sussed. I'm a paramedic by training. I understood all the decisions that I'd made. I understood that for me to have a life, I had to get rid of these gangrenous legs. But the only challenge was that, you wake up the next day, Christmas Day, and that was a bit of a gold standard for change in my life. And that was when, a whole new journey started. I always say if you're going to have your legs cut off when you're 23 years old, what better person than a young mountaineer? Because you've spent most of your life putting yourself in positions where if you don't perform, you die. And you can just treat it just like another mountain. It really is just another challenge. It's not an easy challenge, and there's lots of ups and downs. But I guess understanding that sense of achievement that your athletes will sense as well, that addictive sense of achievement of mountaineering is the thing that's allowed me to really set new goals. Some of them from taking one foot in front of the other to walking with only one stick, to throwing that stick away, to getting back on the bike, getting back on the mountain. All of those things are all about achievement. And every time you can nail one of those, that sense of achievement is addictive, and it allows you to grab the next thing as well.
So that's that constant goal setting, that constant reset of the targets. What can I achieve? Ticking that box as you went forward. And did you set some longer term goals as well for you, sort of reflecting back on that time?
Well, in some ways are a bit challenging, because no one had really been in a similar situation than Phil and I. And our goals were goals that people told us were not achievable. Our goals to go back to climbing, our goals, to go to Everest. One of the biggest challenges I had when I had the courage to make it public that I was going to Everest was actually putting up with all the people that said that you can't do it. And that's it's that having the mental strength to be able to have that ownership, to have that faith in yourself. Every one of your athletes, without faith in yourself, then you'll never achieve the goals. But the really big thing, I think, is just having those small goals and having those small wins. It's the being able to tick off all those small wins allows you to I always say it's like standing on a podium or standing on top of a mountain. The view that you see is never the audience or anything, but it's the picture in your mind's eye of how much further out you are. And that for me, every mountain is exactly that, and both physical mountains and also the mountains that we get put in front of us every day.
Yeah, cool. And I guess it must have been a big part of your planning that went into that before you sort of put that public, and then the trust and the confidence in that plan to say, no, I can do this because this and this. And that comes back to, as you mentioned, everybody that's does a big event or a big adventure, or hey, puts it out there, there's it's a double-edged sword. There's always going to people just going to be people say, no, you can't do that. But there's also, it keeps you accountable too, doesn't it? As part of that, making it public and putting it out to the world.
Yeah, it does. And the thing that allowed me to do Everest, that allowed me to do Cook, it allowed me to do Choyu, which is the 6th highest in the world. I did in 2004, and then on to Everest. The thing that allowed me to do all of that was actually that. That was my silver from the kilo in the Sydney.
Yep.
And the minute that I rode across that line, the watching all the other riders come after me, seeing none of them quite get to me, and it's I was in the gold position right up until the last person, Radovan Kaufman from Slovenia, and Radovan he nailed me by 0.2 of a second, and that there is 0.2 of a second, but that there is also how hard I had to train, how hard I had to race, the sacrifices that we made. But most importantly, it was standing on that podium in Sydney, and all I could see in that Dunkgrave velodrome, the picture in my mind's eye was standing back on top of a mountain. And I knew if I could do that, I can do the mountain. And those wins are the things that are ultra important.
That's right. And I do remember watching that on TV. And you were the first New Zealander to win a Paralympics cycling medal as well, weren't you? So that again, it's another exciting. Yeah. That's awesome. So that just really built the confidence. Well, if I can do this and train so hard for that, well, what's stopping me down the track to go and have a crack at the biggest mountain in the world? Was Everest always on the cards? Is that sort of from the early days? Was that something you always sort of wanted to do?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's for a mountaineer, Everest is like the World Cup. It's like the Olympics. It won't be the hardest game you ever play, but it's the game you really need to go to. It's you'll do far harder climbs. You'll do climbs that may mean more to yourself, but as the event, you just need to go and tick that box, and it's an amazing experience, and it's a tough mountain. It's the in 2006 the long-term average was 1 in 14 die on it, and so it's that if you don't want to be one of those, you have to learn the lessons from the past. And I think one of the great things that I had was I've got my background as a biochemist, as a scientist, and also as a winemaker, and all of those things require knowledge. They require the application of knowledge, and that's really what Everest was. It was, I did things like I built my own hypoxic breathing device, so I could sit at 6,500 meters and watch TV at home. Prior, I did things like with my headlamp, I tried out all the different batteries, but you try them out not just on the bench at home, but you try them out down at the School of Medicine in Christchurch, and you put them in all the different temperature freezers, and you log it. Even in my old freezer here at home, I've still got the vivid markers on the top of the freezer that shows how long each different battery lasts at -20, and it's about knowing all that stuff. That's the thing that will allow you to really succeed. The last thing you need is a surprise.
Yes. So all those little details, just that attention to detail, and ticking as many possible boxes that you can, and also that Choyu climb as well, just to go, how do I go at altitude? How do I respond to that? And that's testing before you go to Everest as well, isn't it? That's also part of the process.
Yeah, and I mean, it's part of your climbing CV. Technically, you have to have another 8,000 meter peak, but as we all know, people lie on their CVs. But on Everest, it sort of catches up with them. But the one thing that I learned was the higher I go, the better I go. And so, I don't have all that useless stuff like your calves and quads and things like that soak up all that what little oxygen there is. Because I've got short stumps, my quads really don't fire all that well. And so nearly all my climbing's done on my hammies and my glutes. And so I can make use of so much more of the available oxygen when you're getting up at above 5,000 meters. That's when I really come into my own, and that's when I think I did the second fastest ascent of Everest on the 15th of May 2006 of any of the 12 people that summited that day. And so that's for a guy that's 20% down in power, that's the real advantage that I have as I go high. I can make use of that little oxygen right in my core. And so there's got to be some good things.
Yeah, that's great. I never actually considered that as a thing to help you out. But with those big mountaineering boots, etc., that basically locks your ankle and your foot out anyway. So they're not really doing much in terms of calves. So if you let's just get rid of those and just go to what's important and what's efficient. Well done.
Yeah, all you have to do is just go to a set of those. That's actually my carbon leg that I used on Everest, and you can see where it broke there. I had a bit of a tumble coming down a ice cliff and landed too hard on it, and it popped the shaft out. But the good thing is when I break a leg, be it on Everest or on the ski field, it's just a bit of a resin or a bolt, and I can fix it. So, it's the I don't have perhaps some of the same injury challenges that your athletes do.
Yeah. And were you able to fix that up at altitude, high up in the cold?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we had the gas heater. We had the natural gas heaters running full bore, and to keep it warm. And it's that's the actual fix that we did at Advanced Base Camp at 6,400 meters at about -12. But yeah, and it's still strong as.
Yeah, that's awesome. It wasn't all plain sailing. On the downhill, you had quite a bit of trouble with your stumps as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, going downhill really sucks as a double amputee, just especially when you got short stumps like mine. That just the whole biodynamic, the physics of it just doesn't work. And so the other thing is that when you go above 8,000 meters, your metabolism changes somewhat, and you tend to preferentially burn protein over carbohydrate or fat. And so you lose a lot of muscle. You'll lose about 8 kgs on summit day, just on summit day.
Wow.
You can't really eat because you're too high. It's you're feeling ill. You're lucky if you can get some hydration in, and so you'll lose it. And so what happened was my stumps shrunk too much, and it was -50 on our summit day, which is why I'm a bit short on fingers as well. And it meant that I went too far into my socket, and I ended up putting the bones through the ends of my stumps, and so that made for a bit of a problematic. I ended up sliding on my ass with Woody on a tether behind me for about half the way down. And then the last 22 kilometers from ABC to base camp, I dialed 0800 Yak and got the Everest Uber, rode on the back of a Yak. And so actually I'd suggest that riding on the back of a Yak is similar to a Sal San Marco saddle, really. Pretty similar. So for a cyclist, it wasn't any great deal. It wasn't any great thing. But yeah, I had to have a centimetre trimmed off each stump when I got home because of the damage that I'd done. So, but, I had my legs off when I was 23. So to have a centimetre trimmed off each side and to have a little bit of a trim up on the fingers, well, that was worth it for me.
Yeah, like going through that pain, like that must be full on, like actually just because it's just something that evolves and gets deeper and deeper and worse and worse and worse. Was it actually there's nothing I can do about this? Is that and you just have to carry on, or how do you cope with that when you're really in that hurt locker and it's just not good?
Well, I mean, I did Everest from the north, from Tibet, and the rule is that above Camp 4, if you can't walk, you can't be rescued. And so, I was very aware of that, and so I walked all the way. I made sure I got myself down to Camp 4, then down to Camp 3, and then that was when I realised the damage that I'd done. And that was just, so what are you going to do? How are you going to do it? And and Woody said, well, just you grew up in the mountains, sliding down them on your ass, bum sliding. So there's no rules. You can do that on Everest, and that's exactly what I did. The thing about frostbite is that it's insidious. It goes numb, then it starts a tingling, throbbing sort of sensation and stinging. when you get to the end of it, the thing that you really want to do is just cut the suckers off. It's and so you just have to work through it. The thing about I guess about pain, I've been a double amputee for a long time. Having these legs is a bit like living with one pair of shoes, and sometimes you get a stone in it, and so you're constantly living with some level of pain to do what you need to do. And the bigger the thing you need to do, sometimes the bigger the price and pain. But the one thing that is when you stop, it goes away, and so or you can manage it, and so it's the other thing is when you're at the top of a mountain, there's only one way to get down anyway. So, you just have to get on with it, really.
Yeah, 100%. No, that's exactly right. And yeah, just need to keep on keeping on effectively. Sometimes when it is when you are exposed and out there in the elements like that.
Well,
do you have any words? Sorry,
I can assure you that cycling's a far harder sport than mountaineering will ever be, and I'm sure running is the same from my memories of doing some marathons when I was young.
Yeah,
and it's so much harder because you can just stop at any time. It's cycling is so hard because if you really want to win, if you really want to stay, if you really want to hang on to that group going up that hill, you just have to keep going, and you have to work through that mental pain. It's the mental part of it that makes it so hard. Whereas you can just put your hands on the brakes and stop at any time and step off. On mountaineering, you can't, and so in some ways, it's the decision's taken out of your hands. And so I'm pretty lucky to have that understanding of my cycling background as well. And that really helps when you get in those situations.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, it's a choice, isn't it, that you make? And you made that in mountaineering. You make that choice before you go, and you're planning and leading up to that. And when you step on the snow, but when you are on a bike, as you say, you can stop at any stage. That's the easy part. You've really got to choose on what you want to do. My question was going to be, do you have any words of wisdom for overcoming challenges and adversity? But I think you've just answered that.
Yeah, it's about keeping your power to the pedals. It's you'll always regret when you're going up that hill, when you take the power off and you let that group sneak away from you because you're never going to get them back. You might think you're going to catch them as you go down the other side of the hill, but they'll always get away from you, and that you'll never know that the sense of achievement unless you actually keep the power on the pedals. That's the biggest lesson that I think I've ever learned on the bike and on the mountain.
Yes, no, that's fantastic. And what advice you've done guiding and taking groups and people to Nepal as well? What advice would you give to others, especially now the world's starting to open up a bit? I know of a few people sort of heading over there. What advice would you give to those that are looking to head to Nepal and around the mountains in that area?
Bastari, slowly, which seems strange to tell a whole bunch of athletes, but the one thing about altitude, especially if you're going to Nepal or to South America, is altitude doesn't care whether you are super fit or not, and so it's all about your metabolism and how you acclimatize. My next trip is we've got a trek booked in November next year. And so I'll have probably somewhere between 12 and 20 clients, and they'll all be upset because we go about a third slower than everyone else over the first 4 or 5 days, because I know if we do that, then everyone will be pretty much bulletproof after that. And you see people coming streaming past you, that will do up to Namche in 2 days and then just 1 day rest and carry on, whereas we take 3 days. And all my clients are going, come on, we can do this. I'm going, just wait. And 9 days later, they're coming down on the back of a horse or they're in the helicopter being brought down. There's some things you can't rush. And if in the mountains, you can't rush it. And the other thing is the hand hygiene. It's one of the great things that we've learned from COVID is hand hygiene. And that's the thing that will nail you in some of these remote places. Keep your hands away from your face. Do a namaste rather than shake hands, and make sure that you're eating good food, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, good. That's fantastic advice. So where to next for you, Mark? What's the latest challenge on the cards? Obviously, sorting out the local bike trails is a big part of taking up your time and energy. What else have you got? What other challenges? I get the feeling you're not someone that will sort of sit back and just kind of retire quietly. I'm sure you've got a few other big things up your sleeve. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's always a challenge, really. It's I'm taking a break from beating my body up too much. Really missing not being in India. Prior to
Yeah.
COVID, I spent about 30% of my time working with corporates in India on culture change and about the resilience to change. So when COVID came along, I sort of had to live it and preach it for myself, as we've all had to do. And then as the world opens up again, it's getting busy again. So I'll be heading back over. It sucks a lot out of you going, backwards and forwards to India and Nepal, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times a year. But it's the thing that I need. It's that constant small challenge. Is for me is as important as any really big challenge. So I won't be doing anything that'll I'm running out of limbs to lose, and I'd go back to Everest tomorrow, but there'd probably be a divorce involved, so probably better I don't do that.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm always looking around. It's the understanding that there's always a challenge out there, and sometimes the big ones, but sometimes they're just the small ones that mean that you get through the next week okay. It's the I am, your attention deficit 62-year-old. And so always looking for something new. But I'm also understand that when you get, this is the longest I've been in New Zealand. First lockdown was the longest I'd been at home, really, for probably well over a decade or a decade and a half. So these are all new challenges that are pretty new to me. And I can honestly say my family are hoping that borders open really soon. Yeah.
To get you out and about. No, that's fantastic. And obviously all the work that you do is just so rewarding, helping make change and helping people sort of see other ways of doing things and even locally on the trails. Like, it's all good infrastructure that people can use and get out there and be more active and challenge themselves as well.
Our work output when we're on the trails is really abysmally poor, because you stop and you talk and everyone stops and talks. And it's so much of it is around interpreting the experience that they're having. The demographic has changed so dramatically in the last 3 or 4 years, especially with the e-bike and e-mountain bike revolution. And so we're seeing a really wide demographic of people out on our trails. And so it's really important that they understand a bit of the culture of the trail, a bit of the history of the trail, riding techniques, all sorts of things. Jono, who works with me, we never go out on a trail without carrying enough spare tubes, enough of everything to help everyone you're going to meet, because everyone's going to need some help at some stage. So those things, it's really, really rewarding. The big thing that we have is Limbs for All Kids Exceed. Limbs for All is our charity that we have, Anne and I, since Everest. And we have about 115 young disabled kids in Cambodia that we provide all of their schooling, all of their ability to get to school. We alter the schools for them. We ensure that they have what they need and their family has what they need. And when you see the value is just phenomenal. I always say that $1 million smile might only cost $250, but and that's a pretty good return on investment. And that's what we see. And I'm sure you see that with the smile on the faces, or even sometimes the grimace on the face of your athlete when they cross the finish line. That's that grimace or that smile, it's worth $1 million. And so it's make sure you bank that in your heart and in your soul.
Absolutely. No, that's fantastic. Fantastic words. Really, really appreciate your time and taking the time to talk to us, Mark. I'm sure you've inspired a number of people. There's a whole bunch of comments sort of streaming through at the moment, which is pretty awesome. So keep up the fantastic work. All the best for your next trip overseas. And we'll look forward to trying to find you for a new mountain bike tube probably over Christmas.
Hey, we'll see you out on the trails in Hamner or up in the St. James. Come on down.
Done. Yeah, good stuff. Cheers, Mark.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah. How good,
Wow.
Jess?
Oh, I'm just blown away. I've just been sitting here taking notes and words of wisdom and just great one-liners that Mark came out with. I was blown away.
Yeah, that's right. Just a few comments from Tony Gibson. Such an interesting guy. Loving this. I'm an expert on slowly does it. So great to hear the endorsement from a true great. You're the best, Mark. Amazing to have enjoyed listening in. Absolute inspiration. So yeah, lots of really good stuff. So that's pretty cool. What was your sort of key takeaway as a result of that, Jess?
Oh, just, willpower and determination can take you amazing places.
Yeah. And that power on the pedals is good as well, isn't it? Just keep on.
I wrote that one down, power of the pedals. And I just wrote down riding a yak and a happy face. I can just see that mental image of coming down on a yak.
Yeah. So that's on your bucket list. We've just added ride yak to Jess's bucket list.
Ride a yak on Everest. Yeah, got to tick that off.
Yeah, good stuff. Nice work. We'll keep on rocketing through our show. We've got Caden Shields sitting in the background. Caden is a fantastic physio. He's put me back together a number of times and works sort of closely with a number of our athletes trying to sort of patch them back together. Is he sitting in the background there, Jess? There he is. How you doing, Caden?
Good, thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me. Just want to say thanks to Mark. That was super inspiring. Special guy. And I was certainly moved a few times during his talk. So that's pretty awesome. Thanks for getting him on.
Yeah. No, that's right. Just a great New Zealander, isn't he?
Oh, yeah. Just an amazing ability to recover from such a traumatic event and to shape it to go on and achieve such amazing things. It's a really difficult thing to do. So that's awesome. Great role model.
Yeah, 100%. And you're a bit of a role model for the rest of us as well. And a big congratulations on your fantastic performance at the Hamburg Marathon recently, clocking in 2 hours, 13 minutes and 21 seconds and the 20th fastest New Zealander over the marathon distance of all time. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a really special moment for me. I suppose my mountain over the last couple of years has been COVID as well. Sort of, I placed 30th at the World Championships in Doha in 2019, and I sort of remember crossing similar to what Mark talked about with the silver medal. I crossed the line in Doha, having been ranked 72nd. I think I was ranked on the start line and finishing 30th, and just thinking to myself, well, what can I do now? Yeah. And then unfortunately, I was not able to travel again for a couple of years. So one promise I sort of made to myself back in 2020 was that I was going to do everything I could to be a better marathon runner when the opportunity came to race again. Yep. And so, similar again to how Mark talked about the little things he did, I made sure I did, really paid attention to detail, just around my preparation and working on my weaknesses and things that I knew would make me a better marathon runner. So it was cool to finally be able to travel to Hamburg and put a performance out that I was quite certain within myself I was capable of. Again, I'm sure that there were certain people that thought I couldn't do it, so it was nice to go and do a performance that I thought I could do. And I still think I can do more. But.
just as Mark said as well, that's right. And I have to say one for the working dad as well. To run that fast and still be a normal guy going to work, having a family, all those things, opposed to actually, this is all I do. So yeah, full credit for that. So just reflecting on that, is there anything like what's one thing that you see in that marathon you did really well, and maybe one thing that you'd look to improve on or do better next time going back again?
Yeah, but within the race itself, I had to take a bit of a risk with the pace. So there were two options, really. The first option was go out at the World Championship qualifying pace, which was 2:11. Well, essentially a little bit quicker than the World Champs qualifier. It was 2:11 pace, or run with the 2:15 pack and I'd run 2:15 before, so I was sort of like, well, I'm not gonna I haven't come all the way to Europe to run 2:15. So, and going out at that pace was at my faster than my half marathon pace that I'd run all. That was 2017. I ran my half marathon PB on the Gold Coast, and my training indicated that was within my capabilities. So I felt quite confident that I could do it, and so I just got stuck in with the pack early, and one of the big things that helps me is just getting involved with the pack pretty early on. So just talking amongst the guys and organising one another at the drinks and drink stations and that type of thing, that just helps me get into a good space mentally. So I did that quite well. And then there was big fluctuations in the pace due to the weather. It was quite windy, and so some of the K splits were a bit slow due to the wind, and then some of them were really fast. And one K split at between 15 to 16K, I think it was 2:56, which was just a bit quick. But one of the pacemakers, who was a German guy, who got a bit excited with the TV camera on him, but we gave him, he was finishing at 17K, so we gave him a bit of a we gave him a wind up after the race. But I was a wee bit disappointed with my last 10K or 12K. At 29K, I was feeling really good, and I was right up on the pacemaker, and I sort of thought to myself, oh, look, I might be able to run this last 10K pretty well. And I always look forward to the last 10K. That's really where I think I come into my own as a marathon runner, and it's a big mental challenge, the last 12K, last 10 or 12K. So, but yeah, I sort of started to struggle a bit between 30 and 32K, and lost touch with a couple of the guys in the group at that point. And I'm proud that I was able to maintain and didn't lose a lot of time, but I did lose some time in that last 12K. Yeah. So that's something I need to work on through various means moving forward.
Yeah, nice. We could talk about marathon running all day, but that's not the sort of key reason why we got you on. I wanted to sort of just, I guess, talk about some stretching and mobility, and actually just a comment that came up from Rachel Wells. Kids and I saw Caden doing an up-tempo workout, and my kids asked if he had superpowers. So I thought I'd just share that on, because that's quite good.
Not at all.
You don't need to answer that.
No superpowers.
Yeah, no, that's good. So do we need to do stretching? Is that something that we should have as part of our routine? I know I work with a number of people that they say they're super tight, and that's just something that I need to do to get me moving better. Is it for everybody? And maybe what are some alternatives that we can think about?
So yeah, I think it all really depends on what you're trying to achieve. So if you're trying to achieve improved range of motion or flexibility, then stretching is definitely a way to achieve that. I think if we're talking about an endurance population, people that run or bike, then you need mobility to do the task that you're wanting to do. So as long as you've got the mobility to do the task that you want to do, then that's good. So I suppose when the issue arises, I think with stretching, when it's people get quite concerned about not stretching, and that it may lead to injury. And so that's one thing I try and emphasize as a physio when I'm talking to people, is that they don't have to stress about that, because at this stage there's not enough evidence to say that stretching does reduce injury risk. So and then again, if we're looking at mobility gains, there are other ways that we can improve mobility whilst also getting some other secondary effects, such as improved performance and injury risk reduction, and strengthening is one way to do that, particularly if you're strengthening through range. So yeah, I think it really is all about what you're actually trying to achieve, and then also what is the most effective use of time or effective strategy to use for the time that you have available, and also the secondary benefits that you may get around which modality you use to improve mobility. We've lost Richard.
I think we have lost.
Oh no, he's back.
So I'm back.
Where'd you drop off, Richard?
Yeah, I dropped off the side of the earth, but I'm back on the planet again. Sorry. So you carry on in terms of what you were just talking about. I'm back again.
So I was just saying that the most important thing really is to answer the question of what you're trying to achieve. And also I think it is around, what's an effective use of time for you as an individual. And, in terms of modalities to improve mobility, I would consider for endurance athletes that strengthening is a better use of time to improve mobility because of the other secondary effects that you gain from that, such as improved performance. And we do know that strengthening does significantly improve performance in endurance athletes.
So right, okay. So to summarize, so what you're saying is we don't need to stretch. We do need to improve mobility, or we may need to if that's what our thing is. But stretching and doing static stretches is not the main, necessarily the only way to do that. We can actually do that by, for example, I'm tight in the hip, so I don't need to be just sitting there doing a stretch lunge sort of hip flexor stretch. I could actually do like a Bulgarian split squat. I could put my leg up on the couch behind me and actually go up and down and actually move through that range of movement, which helps me engage key muscles, but also opens that hip up as well, give me some strength, plus actually basically just moving through that range of movement is what we need to do rather than just hanging on that stretch.
Yeah. And like I said, I think a lot of people do get quite concerned that they're not doing enough stretching, and particularly around their risk of injury. And so I think it is quite a good thing to explain to people that they don't necessarily have to stretch. And I mean, some people really like to stretch, and that's fine. They may feel better for it, but there are other ways to do it. And like you say, you're finding some alternatives, such as, if you are targeting the hip flexors, doing a Bulgarian squat to stretch the hip flexors through range whilst you're also doing a strengthening exercise is a good alternative that also provides other secondary benefits. Oh, Kiwi internet's not going too well tonight.
No, I don't think it is. I'll jump in for the next question, but thanks for that. Where does foam rolling fit in?
Yeah, so foam rolling, I would describe as a pain modulator. So there are many strategies that we can use to modulate pain. Massage is one of them, manipulation is another one, heat's another one, and obviously pain medication they're all pain modulators. So I would put foam rolling in that category. And again, a lot of athletes like to foam roll because it makes them feel better. And so I certainly, when I get asked the question in the clinic, what do you think about foam rolling? I said, well, again, what are we trying to achieve with foam rolling? And, I've certainly been, I think back to myself when I was like 20 and having this ITB problem. That was before I moved to the States in 2008. It was quite a sore ITB, and I just spent half the day lying on a foam roller and stretching it. And little did I know at that point in time, I was probably sensitizing it and making it more painful. So, again, I think if it's all about the narrative, what the explanation is behind the strategy that you're using. And again, we don't need to be, Darren likes a spiky ball. That's good, Darren. Lying on a foam roller for half an hour at night, if there's something that you enjoy doing, that's good. And if it provides you with some benefit, and someone said to me this week that they feel like they run better after using a foam roller before they go for a run. So that's an absolutely good reason to use a foam roller, but it doesn't reduce injury risk, and it doesn't modify the actual local tissue. So we're not improving the length of our muscles by using a foam roller, but what we're doing, or our other soft tissue, for example, but what we can do is modify how we feel. That's a good thing if that's what you're using it for. So, but I personally don't foam roll, but it's more just because I don't get a large benefit from it in terms of how I feel. My body tends to respond quite a lot better to heavy weights. So if I do a heavy squat, for example, on the Smith machine, at 60 or 70 kgs, I feel really good after doing that. And so that seems to mobilize me and make me feel more free. And it's something I implement quite regularly when I'm coming back from a marathon, as I get back into strength training pretty quickly, because I often have really sore tendons and connective tissues. And when I'm running, I feel like I lose my spring and my bounce after a marathon, just from the sort of the trauma of the race. And so for me, getting back under the squat rack doing heavy calf raises, doing heavy squats, and then also plyometrics. That's sort of allows me to feel good, and I know it's providing me with a recovery stimulus, and it's also helping my tendons and my muscles restore from the trauma of the race, because there's nothing that you ever do in training that ever replicates the amount of stress that you go through in a marathon. Like, you never put yourself through that in training. If you did, you wouldn't make it to the race. So so I think it's all about what we're using things for, stretching, strengthening, foam rolling, and it's important that the narrative is in line with the evidence. And we're always learning more about these things. We don't know everything, and so we've got to be open to changing our minds, and also changing our explanations. But I think, when we're talking about athletes that work and have family and train as well, particularly for coast to coast, like, you're looking at significant amount of time commitment to coast. It's really important that when I prescribe something for somebody, that they are doing something that's very time efficient and effective for what they're trying to achieve. And it's just important to explain that so people know why you're giving them those types of things.
Yeah, cool. One question I had was on sort of that feeling of stiffness, that sort of runners that hey, I'm a bit stiff and sore, will complete a long stretch session at the end of it because their muscles feel tight. Is that actually the case, or is it? Yeah, what's your response to that?
Yeah, well, stiffness is not the same as mobility. So stiffness is resistance to movement, and then mobility is obviously the overall range of movement that you have. And so those two things aren't directly correlated. So you can feel stiff but still have a full range of motion. So stiffness is generally a feeling of fatigue or stress. So you tend to get that when you stress your body. So delayed onset muscle soreness is a good example of that. Trying to watch me walk down the stairs after running Hamburg Marathon. It's not pretty. I mean, I can barely bend over as it is, but after having run a marathon, it's a lot more painful and stiff. But yeah, generally stiffness is a sign of overload. And so the best thing you can sometimes do in that circumstance is just rest. It's focusing on the things that we know really influence recovery. So making sure that you're getting to bed in a timely manner, eating well. Nutrition is hugely important in terms of recovery, and also hydration. So I tend to, I have been the runner that spent hours stretching and hours on the foam roller, and frustrated, and I've certainly, I couldn't tell you the last time I stretched or foam rolled, but I really make sure that I get to bed, particularly now that I've got a 5-month-old son, at a reasonable hour. Although, to be fair, my wife does most of the nighttime stuff. But diet definitely, and really important to get good fruit and vegetables in, and they really help with recovery.
Yeah, just quickly, one last question in terms of, right at the top we talked about sort of the flexibility, mobility, etc. I mean, you're a runner, and runners need an element of stiffness in their joints to be able to bounce and spring. Often, I don't know, maybe from a triathlon perspective, those athletes that have started from a swimming background and that's what they've done growing up generally aren't quite so stiff and bouncy, so generally struggle to be able to then run well. Often that's the case. Yeah, would you agree with that? Is that part of it? Actually, those swimming types would actually just do no stretching mobility at all because they're probably hypermobile.
Yeah, I think mechanical stiffness definitely improves running economy. So I think that's inherently why, probably from a genetics point of view as well, like running selects stiff people.
Yes.
Yes. I used to get real frustrated when I unfortunately went to the physio as a teenager, and the physio would just get so frustrated with how stiff I was. And I remember just leaving sessions like, oh, I just can't change this. Like, this is just who I am. There's photos of me when I was a rugby player, believe it or not, where I was sitting in the front row and I couldn't cross my legs. And I remember sitting in primary school and never being able to cross my legs. It was just the most uncomfortable thing. And I really don't like going to the beach these days because I just hate sitting down in the sand. It's just a really uncomfortable thing for me to do. I need to take a deck chair or something because I just can't sit down or cross my legs. My wife thinks it's hilarious. So it's just going to be interesting to see if my son is as inflexible as I am when he gets older. There might be two of us at the family picnic not being able to sit on the ground. But yeah, I think Yeah, certainly it selects. I think stiffness or running selects stiff people because you tend to be more efficient and more economical. My economy is the strongest asset of my running. I can run really, really high percentage of my anaerobic threshold for a whole marathon. So, and I'd say a big part of that is a significant part of that is my genetic makeup. So, certainly running selects stiff people, but certainly I think. This is just an observation, but there does seem to be like a significant difference in running mechanics between a lot of the top triathletes and a lot of the top runners, and it's just a complete observation from my point of view. But you see Eliud Kipchoge's, for example, he's like super stiff. He runs like a spring, and then you might compare it to Blumenfeld, the Olympic triathlon champion, and like quite a rolling gait. So it's interesting, and it's probably something to talk to John Hellemans about actually, just with his observations. But I certainly think the mobility that you need, for example, in your shoulders to swim versus my shoulder mobility, that is quite different. So you definitely get different genetics across the two sports, and so and it'd be interesting to see what the running economies are like compared to triathletes versus pure runners. I mean, Hayden Wild's a machine and dominates most of us anyway. But certainly would be something interesting to compare. Yeah.
Well, it could also be superpowers, because we've had a comment come in through Facebook from Rachel Wells, who said she and her kids saw you doing up-tempo work and her kids asked if you had superpowers.
Yes. But as we've already mentioned, and apparently he doesn't. That's what he's claiming he doesn't. But I think we've gone into a little bit deeper, and potentially you do, Caden. Hey, really appreciate your time and sort of giving us a bit more of an insight, I guess, on that into that whole stretching mobility field of what I can do, but not necessarily actually just have to do lots of static stretching. How do I manage my time, and how can I be more time efficient with it? And again, what do I need to do as well? So no, really appreciate that, and thanks for your time, and all the best of getting back into the training and building up to that next big challenge. And just quickly, have you got a date? Have you got an event? Have you got this is my next challenge?
No, I'm for having a hard time with that at the moment. It's I was thinking about running the National Cross Country Championships in Taupo, but it'll just depend about on how the next couple of weeks of training go. It's 6 weeks away, I think, 6 or 7 weeks. So it's pretty close. So if my training's not going super flash in the next couple of weeks, I'll probably give that a miss. But I'll run the New Zealand Road Champs, which are a month later in Wellington, and then I'll aim for the track season and try and. My weakness is my speed, so I'll get over to Melbourne in December for the Zeta Peak 10,000 meters, and my 10K PB's coming up. What is it? It's like 13 years old now, so it's time to beat that. So the old dog's still got a bit of speed in him yet, so we'll give it a go. Yeah.
Good job, Caden. Hey, really appreciate taking your time to join us and sharing with our community. Look after yourself, and we'll look forward to following your journey on through to that next 10K and then the marathon that's coming up ahead.
Yeah. Cheers, team. Cool. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Good job. Thanks, heaps. Nice work, Jess. So basically the word is if you want to go do more running, is try and do less yoga. Is that the case?
Never do less yoga. Yoga's the exception. You can keep doing yoga.
No, that's right. But I mean, in terms of yoga is like that strength movement as well. It depends on how you do your stretching, how you do your yoga, how you actually put that together, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's some great insights there, and more comments coming through on how helpful that was. So yeah,
good. Good job. Hey, let's Darren de Groot's been sitting in the background. I actually chatted to him. I did this interview already yesterday, but unfortunately our microphone didn't work. So Darren has been called back into the studio. Yeah, for a second.
Hey guys, it's two very tough acts to follow there with Mark. Very humbling listening to that, and the machine that Caden is. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's right. But we've got you on the show tonight because you are a machine as well, and we've just had a month of May, Everest month, and you've just basically blown it out of the water. So really need to get get you on to just share what you've actually done, and I guess the back reason why, what's going on sort of in terms of your motivation. We'll talk to Mark a bit about that. But let's just, first of all, I want to ask, how is the body feeling after the month of May, completing not 1, not 2, but 3 times the height of Mount Everest, so over 26,000 vertical meters. That's not feet, that's meters climbed. How are the legs? How's the body?
No, the body's fine. Just a bit tired, that's all. But yeah, just to get it right, I didn't run these stairs, all right? I walked them. It was just about the meters. It wasn't about doing it fast, but I was just consistent for the month. And the worst part was coming down.
And that's my next point, actually, in terms of like through the month, like collectively vertical meters. So yours were all on foot. We can do virtual vertical meters on Zwift nowadays. So when we're living in Kauai and it's I get 16 vertical meters out of a 40-minute run. That's not very time efficient, but so we can do it that way. And then you can get off your bike once you've done your climb, and then that's it. You can go inside. You can ride up a hill, but then you can freewheel back down again. So actually, yes, you work hard, but there's no impact on that down. The purest of vertical meters are those that you have to do on foot. So,
well, I'll sort of answer it a wee bit.
Yeah.
These guys on bikes and that going uphill, I'm not taking anything away from them. It's just as hard as doing it on foot. And there was so many meters by Team CP over the month. I can't wait to see what the total is from everyone. It was just I had more time on my hands, and I just had nothing else to do besides climb stairs. They're too handy. They're just around the corner from me as well. So
yeah,
that's fantastic. So you had a slow start, though. You talked about being consistent, Darren. You had a slow start, and you didn't start to the 2nd of May. I was actually 2,000 vertical meters ahead of you before you even realised, as a result of our mission around Mount Summers. Did this make you an angry man and spur you on,
not an angry.
Were you pretty confident that you were going to do okay?
No, I wasn't angry about it. I did the sums. I got the calculator out, and I thought, right, 2,000 meters. I'm only really 2 days behind, because if you did 2,000 meters on the first, you weren't going to do anything more for a few days. But if I slowly chipped away at it, I was going to have you.
Yeah, make that a week. I was quite broken after that. Probably almost took me 2 weeks before I could do anything useful again after that. So no, I'm not your one you needed to worry about. But no, that's pretty impressive. So you did it all on the same climb, though, didn't you? What was your why? Why did you you come out to play in May, don't you, for this vertical meters challenge? Why did you want to do this? What kept you going?
So I had a wee injury. I aggravated an injury, and I couldn't do any trails like Pipeline or maybe Foggy Peak or Avalanche Peak or anything like that over May. So there's a set of stairs just around the road, St. Martin's Stairs, and Jacob and the Team CP runners will know those stairs. I decided that I did an Everest on it last year. I wondered if I could do more than an Everest this year.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So these stairs, they start down by the school. There's 220 stairs. It's about 120 meters in distance, and it's 47 meters on average elevation. And did I say 220? Yeah. So 220 stairs. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and how many repetitions of those did you do?
Over 570.
570 repetitions of those hills over that set of stairs. And what was your biggest stint that you did at any one time?
It was on Saturday. I had 6,500 meters to get my third Everest, and I did 6,500 meters, but I lost some of that data. For anyone that's checking out my figures, yes, there are meters missing, but it still counted my segments.
Yes, yeah. So Garmin and Strava did a bit of a funny thing in the cloud somewhere, and that went missing, which is pretty tough. But got that done. Did you have anyone else join you, or was this all solo? We just had a comment come up that they can vouch for you that you were doing stair repeats on the St Martin stairs. So I'm pleased to hear that. But did you have any other family, teammates, other people just to come along to hang out with you for a few hours?
My wife and daughter and my boy came out and did a lap with me there one day. They wondered where I was. I was up there for about 3 hours during the week.
Yeah.
And they did a lap with me, and one's enough for a 6-year-old and a 12-year-old. We didn't want to do any more after that. And other than that, it was all the school kids coming down the stairs to go to school in the morning would see me, and they were with their mums or dads, and they were sort of looking at me daily. And when I was doing double sessions, I'd do one in the morning and one in the afternoon. They'd be picking their kids up and coming back up the stairs and thinking I was there all day.
Yeah. Did you get to know the locals at all? Like, did you get to meet a few people up and down the stairs, or the local neighbourhood watch? They went out sort of checking on you.
Well, maybe 3 o'clock in the morning, one of the neighbours was at his back door wanting to know what was going on. All he seen was my light going up and down the stairs in the middle of the night. And he has the odd person walk up and down there, but not up, down, up, down. So I just explained to him about Team CP and their Everest Challenge month. And he was, oh, okay, right.
Okay.
But you're okay, though.
That's good. Okay, I hope you so put us in good stead there. The cops aren't going to be knocking on the door. That's good. So the wife and family, they're supportive, or they're actually quite happy to get rid of you for a bit of time?
Yeah, well, I've been pretty lucky or unlucky that I haven't been working, so I've had to have something to fill in my day. So Jan heads off to work in the morning, and I get the kids to school, and then I go do some stairs until I can't do any more. And then I'll come home and have a break and some lunch and that, and then I'll go and do some more stairs until I can't do any more, and then I come home again.
Yeah, so good. We have got a fantastic prize pack that's winging its way to you, Darren, as a result of this fantastic effort. So really, really appreciate you being part of this May challenge, and it's a little bit crazy, but it's kind of cool at the same time. So it's a fantastic effort that you've done. I do need to ask, maybe somewhat tentatively, in terms of what's next.
What, for next May or for the rest of the year?
Well, yeah, what's the next challenge? We'll just park May for next year at the moment for 2023, but have you got anything else on the cards for the...
I want to do the Dunedin Marathon in September. It's the 50th running of the Dunedin Marathon, and it's on my 50th birthday.
Cool.
Fantastic.
So, and I've already talked to the organisers. They've sorted me out the bib number 50, which is pretty cool.
Awesome.
So that's going on in the background. As well as that, I've set myself another challenge of hashtag 50 peaks before 50.
Right.
So I've got 9 of those peaks out of the way at the moment, but I've got a bit of time on my hands at the moment. So I said to Jess earlier I might be down Wanaka this week, and I'll be up Royce Peak and maybe Isthmus at Harawira as well.
Yeah, fantastic.
So that'll get me up to about 11.
Good. Keeping you off the streets, keeping you busy, looking out. Yeah, I've got a few good challenges on the cards, Darren. Hey, really appreciate your time this evening. Thanks so much for joining us, and well done for your fantastic May. You can have a day or two off. Just go and chill out for the rest of the week.
Thanks, Richard. Jess. Cheers.
Awesome.
Cheers, Darren. Good job,
wow.
Jess.
50 peaks before 50. I love it.
Maybe we should start now. I've probably got less time than you have, but that's probably not a bad little challenge, is it?
I like it. It's great.
No, that's great. Hey, big show tonight. Awesome to see so many different comments coming through. As we mentioned right at the top of the show, that Salomon's our show sponsor, and we will be. And hey, if you're watching this after the show is being produced, feel free to throw a comment on there before next week. We'll look back and then select somebody that's been involved and given us some feedback, etc. And that Salomon prize pack will be out to you. Jess, what are you up to for the long weekend?
I'm actually coming up to Christchurch.
Oh, wicked. What's happening in Christchurch?
It's Pete's birthday, so we're coming up to see the family and some friends. Bit of a last minute plan, actually.
Excellent.
Yeah. And what
That's
about
fantastic.
you?
Not too much really. We're just a bit of a catch up type weekend. We've got some kids sport to sort of go and chase on Saturday morning. So that's probably the main bit really, and just probably doing a few jobs, etc. around the place. Hopefully get out for a bit of a jog at some point. My fortnightly football game, I'm actually able to recover in about, I don't know, 3 or 4 days this time, rather than sort of
That's progress.
10 to 13 days as it has been, like taking 2 weeks to recover for the next one. So yeah, hopefully get out for a jog and yeah, just hang out. Be good.
Fantastic.
Easy. Hey, thanks so much for holding the show together. My Kiwi internet's sort of been a bit glitchy tonight, but you've done a great job, Jess. Thank you for Salomon, our show sponsors, and all those fantastic people that have been involved in our show tonight, and obviously our fantastic guests as well. You're absolutely amazing, both Mark, Caden, and Darren, and we'll look forward to catching up with you, Jess, and all our team next week.
Cool. Have a good night, and thanks for joining us, everyone.
Good job. Over and out.